Hello everybody, it's Emma here with some options, some modifications and some examples of props that you can use to support your practice of bound angle pose, Baddha Konasana, sometimes called the cobbler's pose. So what I have here with me is a flat block and two brick blocks. So first of all, if you have tight hip extensors, in other words, the muscles at the back of your legs, you may well find a degree of tightness as you try to fold forward, because Baddha Konasana is a forward fold at the end of the day. So you probably have come across this tip in other forward bends, and it is to sit your sitting bones up on a block or any other kind of elevated prop, including a bolster if that's not too high, or a folded up blanket would also be really good. And whatever you're sitting on, you want to come towards the very edge of it so that you can feel a tilting forward of the hips, because what we don't want is to be rolling back and rounding through the spine, because then if we try and fold forward, that's called loaded flexion. We really don't want that at all. So Baddha Konasana is a forward bend, and as such we want to tip the hips forward so we can hinge forward from the hips. So sitting on something can help that process. Secondly, sometimes we want a little bit of extra support under the knees. So what you can do is you can either stick a brick under each knee like that, so just flat on the mat, or I quite like this version, so you stick them on an angle. To me that feels a little bit more supportive. So that's another thing that you can do. What I don't want you to ever do in class is to get frustrated because your knees are high up in the air and think that the answer might be to push down onto the knees. I know we do it in some poses, but my advice in Baddha Konasana would be no, just leave them be and support as you need to. You can always, as the pose develops, you can go a bit further away with the blocks and lower the angle. And just allow your breath to help you down rather than adding any extra force. Another option, if your back is tight, you could shuffle back to the wall and sit with your hips and your shoulders against the wall and just work with your natural curve of the spine. That's quite nice actually. And then you can really focus on lengthening through the spine, which is a key part of Baddha Konasana, and have the support there. That feels quite nice too. Now let's come to the feet. So in Baddha Konasana we use the thumbs inside the balls of the feet really, and we open the feet like a book. Now first of all, if you're sitting on something, you may feel that, unless you've got really long arms, or I've got short arms, it's a long way, and so just don't come into that rounding motion as you reach down for the feet. Okay, so as long as you can sit on your block and come to your feet with a flat back, then all is good. If this sensation intensifies the pose too much in your knees or maybe in your hips or your adductors inside the legs, you can do a few different things. First of all, if it's just discomfort, you may well be able to just sit with your breath and observe the feelings coming and going and just be at one with them. If it's painful, as always, that is a red flag, and we don't want to do it if we have any actual pain. So instead of opening the feet like a book, what you can do is keep the feet together, and then you can either interlace your fingers around your toes, or you could hold your ankles or even your shins. Focus on keeping length in the back and only start to hinge forward at such time as you feel you can do so without rounding the back and without compromising the length in the spine. Okay, I think the last thing I wanted to show you was if you have any pain in the knees, because I'm not really sitting in Baddha Konasana, but in Baddha Konasana, we are really looking for the minimum gap between the sitting bones and the heels so that there's a complete closure at the knee joint. Now that does not feel good for everybody's knees, and we should never put the knees into pain in our practice. Nothing is worth that. So if the complete closure of the knee joint is painful for you, you can take your feet further away, and this is called butterfly pose. I first learned it in yin yoga, and you can take your feet as far away from the sitting bones as you like. You'll still be working your adductors, just different. There's lots of adductors, you'll be just working different ones. And you can still round forward. You can round forward here and rest your hands on your ankles or your shins and take your gaze to your feet. So I hope that those options are helpful and useful things to bear in mind when you come across Baddha Konasana in your practice.